stoked today because we are talking about one of my favorite items in Deadlock. We're going to be taking a look at, is Juggernaut a good item? Hey everyone, this is Connor here at Dead Unlocked, and I'm excited for another item breakdown today. This time we're going to be looking at Juggernaut. And as always in the series, we're going to be asking 5 questions of this item. What does it do? What hero should you play it on? What game situation should you buy it in? Is it a core or situational item? And finally, is it a good item? So, today we are covering Juggernaut. This is a 6400 Vitality item. We're back to the Vitality tab. And this is a stat beast. This one has a whole lot of stats that it gives you. It builds out from a few different things, so we've got a lot to talk about when we look at what Juggernaut does, kind of what situations you're going to be buying it in, all that kind of stuff. Let's get right into it here. So, this is in the 6400 tab for Vitality. So, buying it, as we've said with Witchmail, is going to give you a lot of health just passively for investing in souls. Otherwise, it has got some great stats. So plus 50% slow resist is the, it's bolded there. It's one of the main parts of this item. Plus 2 meters per second move speed, plus 15% melee, or plus 25% rather, melee resist, plus 8 health regen. And then it has a passive. Enemies that shoot you have their fire rate slowed by 40% for 4 seconds. So, this is basically an item that is, again, jam-packed with stats. It builds out of sprint boots, or actually it builds out of enduring speed, which comes from sprint boots, which is a whole tree in and of itself that, if you go sprint boots, you can pivot to trophy collector if you want to go more that direction. If not, you can go for enduring speed to get some extra move speed and regen. And then obviously that can go into Juggernaut, make it a little bit more affordable to upgrade that in the late game. So, let's look at quickly, though, what heroes you should probably be looking to buy Juggernaut on. Alright, before this, I'll put the item stats on screen for this because there's a lot of stats this does. Remember, we're looking at slow resist, move speed increase, melee resist, health regen, and then obviously you're slowing enemies' fire rate with the item as well. So, we're going to focus more on the actual stats of the item when we look at what heroes we're going to be buying it on. I think that the passive that comes along with it is a little bit more when we get into like the reactionary side of the item. So like what game states you'll buy it in really does, is dependent on that fire rate situation. But when we're looking at a couple other items, or a couple other facets of the item rather, we're looking at, like I said, slow resist, move speed, melee resist, health regen. So what does that tell us about the kind of hero that needs to buy this item? Well, one, it's a hero that needs to be able to move quickly. It needs to be able to run around, get to where it's going fast, and not be impeded by any slows. It's also maybe a hero that's going to be a little bit on the front line. It has melee resist. So this is ideally a frontlining hero. It's going to get some value out of maybe occasionally taking a punch, being able to deal with it, shrug it off, move along. And then obviously health regen, and just the fact that it's a 6400 green item means that we're probably looking for a tanky kind of hero that likes to frontline and is, wants to kind of help their team by reducing enemy fire rate. I think there are a lot of candidates for Juggernaut, honestly. This is an item that, very different than Curse, like we looked at. I think you can look at a lot of characters specifically, kind of as pinpoint heroes to buy this item. So who are we talking about? Well, Abrams, starting alphabetically, is about as good of a start as you could want, right? Abrams wants to move quickly. He wants to obviously have some melee resist because he is going to be certainly in the front lines punching. Health regen's obviously going to help him too. He's a big target as well. So when you think about sometimes the fire rate reduction, you want to think of like heroes that are going to get shot at quite a bit, honestly. Maybe this is just my dumb brain thinking about this, but at least in my elo, down in the old emissary, archon kind of area, the bigger heroes get shot at more. And Abrams is a big boy, so he's going to get shot at quite a bit. In the exact same way, you might consider this maybe on a Dynamo. I don't think so quite as much, but there is a world you do run this on Dynamo just as a way to, again, approach people quicker, maybe get your ult off a little bit more, like a situation where you need to just kind of run up in front line. Maybe that is good. Again, Dynamo and certain support builds could really benefit from a Juggernaut play. Otherwise, there's a whole lot of characters, right? You could run it on Bebop, maybe on like a self-bomb build when you're running in and you need to be able to move quickly. On some Infernus builds, I could see this working. Maybe even on some Kelvin builds. There's quite a few here, right? So I think another one is Shiv. Certainly this is one you'll run on Shiv, especially into a gun team, right? But he really likes to be as fast as possible. He's trying to get into ult range quite a bit. It might not be as core on Shiv as it is on like Abrams or something else, but I think it's still at least a pretty good item on Shiv. Mo and Krill's another candidate. I'm just kind of calling out all the tanks in the game right now. Very, very sophisticated analysis here. One hero, though, that I do want to look at, and I've tried to become a Viscous main. He's in a really tough spot to play right now, I think. But at least it is for me. But I really love Juggernaut on Viscous. I think this is like a top-tier item for Viscous, especially when you're in Goo Ball form. You're going to be getting shot at so much. Like, it's one of those abilities that draws attention to you in some ways. People either run from you, or everyone's going to look at you and try and shoot you. So that's where it could be good. That's the same way as like Mo and Krill. This could be really good on. If you're in your ult and there's anyone else around you, they are probably, if the enemy team is probably going to try and save their comrade to burst you down. That's a lot of fire rate coming in. They may even melee you while you're in that, and Juggernaut would help you even more with that. But the last two I want to talk about as well are Warden and Yamato. Both excellent candidates for this item. Warden, it really makes sense. I mean, Warden, one of the worst feelings playing Warden is being in your ult and just chasing someone down and not being quite fast enough. Maybe you've already used Fleet Foot and then the barrier, and you're not able to close the gap willpower. So Juggernaut is one of those things, the 2 meter per second move speed, the slow resist being reduced, that can really help you to get some value out of those Warden ults, and at the very least, it also makes you a little hardier while you're doing it as well, which is never a bad thing. And very much the same as Yamato. Maybe a little bit less. Honestly, my P-Brain wants to say that her hitbox is a little bit lower, so like you may not be getting shot at as much. I feel like Yamato gets targeted with abilities quite a bit, so maybe not quite as pertinent, but still a very good item. Again, these are heroes that want to close the gap, want to get up close, and need to, basically nerf the enemy team's fire rate, which leads us right into what game situations should you be buying this item in. Let's take a look at one I had recently where I think it came into play perfectly. Alright, so here's a game, and don't mind me just getting absolutely carried, by the way. This was a wacky one. But this was a game where I ended up buying Juggernaut on Warden, kind of like I just called out. I was trying to play kind of like a hybrid Warden where I was really emphasizing the ult as kind of my main power spike, and I consistently was having problems closing the gap against some people on this team. I mean, they have a lot of mobility. They had Lash, they had Dynamo who has an escape, they have Pocket with an escape, Yamato can get away somewhat easily, right? And Furnace can certainly dash away, so I was having a lot of problems closing the gap. The other thing that obviously came to mind on this team, and something you should be looking at if you're in the middle of your games and you're like, maybe you have Enduring Speed, maybe you have Sprint Boots, and you're like, should I go Trophy Collector? Should I just go down a different path altogether? Should I go ahead and make the purchase for Juggernaut? I had that exact moment in this game. I think I had Sprint Boots. I wasn't going to go Trophy Collector, although on Warden, maybe you can make a case for that because of the ability range and move speed, maybe. But I hit tab and looked, and I saw 4 heavy gun characters, and honestly, the 2 spirit heroes weren't really doing much in the game. I mean, you have a Dynamo with 7 deaths, the Haze was certainly getting fed early, and then you have Lash with no kills, 4 deaths, 2 assists, 6,000 damage. So really tough game for these 2, basically non-factors in the game. So in this scenario, this is an ideal time to buy Juggernaut, because anyone who's actually going to do damage to you is now doing not 40% less damage purely, but their fire rate is going to be reduced by 40%. Again, it's a little bit different because the Pocket is not running like a traditional Glocket build, right? Like, this is not just a pure gun Pocket, so there is still some spirit damage coming in from the team. But I mean, look how low these spirit bars are. This is also a wild Yamato build. I've not seen gun Yamato very much. But, and Furnace, McGinnis, great targets for this. I'm kind of one of the team's frontliners here. Me and my friend Nick were playing, and he was playing Abrams, so we were kind of the wrecking crew running around trying to just frontline as much as possible. I don't think he ended up buying it, but he does have Cold Front, Phantom Strike, so he was kind of closing gaps, being real punchy, and I was chasing people down with Juggernaut. So if you're looking for games to try and buy this, again, the easiest thing to look for is, are you on a hero where it makes sense? It's like a Warden and Abrams, but the heroes we just mentioned. Do you see a lot of weapon bars? If you do, that's an immediate kind of, okay, that's how the team is scaling. And then again, what is your hero trying to do in relation and kind of, against those weapon damage heroes? So from a purely defensive standpoint, right, you might just buy plated armor. You might just be like, all right, I'm just going to make sure these bullets don't hurt me. But with Warden, there's really more I'm trying to do with Juggernaut. Remember, Juggernaut is not just the fire rate thing, it's also health regen, melee resist, move speed, slow resist. So I'm not getting a lot of the melee resist benefit on this team. Maybe Yamato tries to punch me. Maybe the Lash does. There's not really a whole lot of punching happening on this team, though. But the slow resist is really, really beneficial. A lot of times, I don't think she's doing it here. A lot of times, a McGinnis turret will slow you down. A lot of times, there's just, you know, maybe even Infernus is running something to slow you down. There's lots of things in the game that can cause slows, and obviously, Warden needs to move quickly. So, all that factored in, this game was an ideal time for me to purchase Juggernaut, and I think you should be looking for it more in game situations like this. But, is it core, or is it situational? Let's take a look. Question now becomes, is this a core item, or is it situational? This is one of those items that I really think can go both ways properly, but I want to show a couple of examples of where this item can be a core item in a build really easily so, right? So this is my goo ball build. It's a little bit out of date. I haven't updated this one in a little bit, but it still is mostly online, right? So this is a build that is trying to use splatter early game, have a mid-game transition to where you're going for goo ball, you're doing all the things like cooldown reduction, torment pulse, duration extender, all that kind of stuff. Then the late game, you're going for tank buster, juggernaut, and scourge. It's kind of just become a goo ball wrecking machine that causes some problems. And I have juggernaut as a core item in this build. Now, I will put a caveat. There are some supplemental slots down here, and I usually try and put, you know, some annotations with those, right? Witchmail is down here. If I'm running into an all-spirit team, at the very least, I'm going to buy Juggernaut last, because again, everyone still does shoot their gun. It's not like guns just don't exist in spirit games. But I probably would lean Witchmail there just to try and keep my abilities up faster. Or maybe something else entirely, right? Maybe I would just go for more spirit. Maybe that means it's rushing Scourge or going for Boundless Spirit or something like that, right? But within this build, again, the whole purpose of what a goo ball carry build is trying to do is get into goo ball as many times as possible and just run over teammates. And so to do that, you need to be able to move quite a bit. You're going to be on the front line, so you're going to be getting punched. And if they're shooting at you, it's really nice to have that debuff that you can put on them right away. All right, apologies there. Another build I've looked at is this Abrams build. So this is one I'm working on. This is actually inspired by a Midlock video. So Midlock, if you watch this, shout out you. Great videos as always. He did like a Spirit AoE kind of build. Now, he's not obviously the first one to ever do this build. I just watched one of his videos recently and was inspired by it. So I tried to make like a full AoE, is still a work in progress. Just, again, maximize the area of effect and really focus on Siphon Life as kind of your main spike. So I have Juggernaut as a situational item on this one, along with a lot of others. Like I said, this is kind of how I workshop builds. You're seeing one live in progress right here. Start off with some kind of theoretical power spikes, and then put a lot of situational items, and then I kind of try to figure out which one of them I'd like to be kind of maybe more core than others. So this one's the opposite. I actually have Witchmail as a primary item, because, again, this is a spirit-focused build, and this gives me spirit power and spirit resist. Fits in really nicely. But there's a lot of room for me to run Juggernaut with this build, because what Abrams is trying to do in this build is get as big of a circle around him as possible, you know, using things like Trophy Collector, Greater Expansion, use Scourge, use Siphon Life, and just go in, not even necessarily punching. You're just in there, causing a ruckus, debuffing, being annoying, all that great stuff. Getting a punch off if you can, maybe if you can bait out a parry or something like that. So in a build like this, Juggernaut could make a lot of sense. I would look to run Juggernaut as like a probably 60 to 80% situational item, as long as there was just a handful of gun heroes in the other team. I'd probably look for it maybe somewhere around this section after Witchmail, in between that and Greater Expansion. I just have to kind of see how this plays out. But, point being, I think this is absolutely an item that can be core, but I would put an asterisk next to it that if you're running it into a team, this is the same conversation we have with Witchmail. If you're running it into a team with one gun player and 5 just all-out spirit heroes, there probably is a better item to buy. So by that nature, I would say that it's probably best being a situational item, even if it's one that you earmark and you try to go back to as much as possible. It's kind of like how I use my Viscous build, right? But it can be almost, you know, almost a core item. So that would be my approach to Juggernaut if I were running it in games, looking for it on heroes that you should look at for. Keep an eye on the enemy team, make sure there's at least some guns shooting at you, and just kind of play the situation as it lies. And finally, is Juggernaut a good item? I think it's actually pretty impossible to say no here. And it's shocking, right? Because this item actually only has a 5.8% buy rate, according to StatLocker, and a 52.8% win percentage. I think this is an incredibly slept-on item, actually. this and Witchmail, I feel like I'm talking very similarly about both. I kind of feel the same way about both. There are so many stats you're getting here. So obviously, I mean, you have the move speed passively from Enduring Speed here, right? It's the same move speed. You get so much regen, and this is health regen. This is not out of combat regen. This is health regen. This is all the time regen. Melee resist, slow resist, and you're debuffing an enemy. This item does so much, and it's all in the background for the most part. The passive, I guess you will notice, but this is just one for me that I think players could run a whole lot more. Basically, these tank builds I think people are getting into, I don't know there's enough of an emphasis on green items in a lot of these tank builds. I think people a lot of times feel like they get one and they're good. Like maybe they buy, I don't know, Spellbreaker, or maybe they just buy Colossus, or maybe it's just a couple of 1600 items like a Spirit Shielding and Enchanters, or Bullet Vest and Spirit Shielding, or something like that, right? Return Fire. But I think when you get into some of these chunkier green items, there is so much kind of hidden value to be found, in addition to the fact that this is also just going to make you so much hardier as a hero. So, do I think Juggernaut's a good item? Absolutely I do. It's one that I look to buy quite a bit. My buy percentage is way more than 5.8%, so I'm helping to bring that number up a little bit, and I think you should be too. But that is going to do it for this item breakdown. Thank you all so much for the support in these videos. I've really enjoyed making them. If you have any formatting suggestions, I'm still kind of trying to find the exact vision for what these are going to look like. Like, we didn't have gameplay on this one, but we did with the curse video. Like Capacitor, we need to show how that works. But with Juggernaut, we are really just kind of talking about theory and what the item does. There's not, I feel like, as much of a need for gameplay examples here. But if you feel differently, let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas for this series or items you want to see. Let me know. But again, thank you all so much for tuning in. From our house to yours, we'll see you all next time here at Dead Unlocked. Oh, and also, thank you all for 500 subs. That's crazy. Woo! Thank you all. Really appreciate the support. Love this community. Atlas is not impressed. Oh, she is. What's up, girl? But we really appreciate the support. Thank you all for 500 subs. We'll see you all at 1,000. Let's go. See you next time.